5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone, welcome to another video by me, Detective Prepper. It's a beautiful morning, sun shining, birds are singing. Other than that, the world's going kind of crazy here, it seems. Lately, I've taken a little bit of time off, but I'm back to do some more videos. I got myself a huge iced coffee, so I'm ready to rock and roll here. Usually my videos are more technology based, but I have been receiving some emails and inquiries lately as to what other type of prepping I do. So one of the topics that's come up is long-term food storage, if I actually use Mylar Bag to store food. So yes, I do, is the answer to that. I'm going to show you my method today on how I do it. May not be right for everybody. It may be the same as you know, a million other people are doing out there. There's a lot of people doing this, but I figured since people were asking, I'd give you what you wanted. So let's get low techy. There's three basic enemies of food storage. The first is oxygen. So the air around us in our environment is approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and there's a 1% of other gases floating around. So oxidation is the biggest enemy of food that you store long term. So what oxidation is, it's the breaking down of molecules by oxygen. So when an oxygen molecule interacts with a food molecule, the oxygen steals electrons from it, and that breaks down the molecular structure of the food. That's how you get, if you leave an apple out or a banana out in the open air, it starts to brown and that type of thing. That is oxygen in the air around you breaking down those molecules in the food. The second is light. It's photodegradation is what it's called. It's hydrogen transfer and hydrogen abstraction. Very complicated, but let's just say that light is not good for food storage. It breaks it down over time. The third enemy of food storage is temperature. So the higher the temperature gets, the faster the molecules move around you. So that is basic science. The faster the molecules move, it's a tongue twister, trust me. They interact with each other much faster, and it gives the oxygen more opportunities to steal electrons and break down the food faster. So how do we mitigate the three enemies of food storage? With Mylar bags. There's different sizes, different form factors, and some of them look a little different, right? But essentially they're all manufactured quite the same. There is a level of PET, it's Mylar, right, which is a plastic film, and that is highly impermeable to gases, so it doesn't allow gases to pass out of the bag or into the bag. It's very airtight. And then what we do is we put oxygen absorbers in and seal it up, and what that does is the oxygen absorbers are filled with iron powder, and that actually attracts the oxygen molecules and causes oxidation within the oxygen absorber, turns the iron powder to rust, and basically it neutralizes any oxygen inside the bag, which would degrade your food. Bonded to that PET or that layer of Mylar is foil, and that is to combat the light. And then the third way is up to you, and that is to combat high temps. So what you want to do is once you finish preparing these is to store them in a cool, dry place. So now that we have a better idea of how your food degrades and what the Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers can do to mitigate those issues, let's go ahead and do an exercise where we actually use a bag and we'll store something. I'll show you how I do it. So what I'm going to be storing today is some crushed red pepper. Side note, if you're going to store rice, beans, that type of thing long term, make sure you store some spices with it because there's nothing worse than eating plain rice and beans straight for days at a time. Okay, so let's do this. What do we need? We need a Mylar bag. We need the contents we're going to put into the Mylar bag, And to seal it along the top, you heat seal it. So there are retail sealers made, just heat sealers made just for this purpose. But for today's purposes, and for any other use really, anytime you can seal any bag with one of these. It makes it a lot easier if you have a large one, but I use a hair straightener, right? Very simple and it's very effective. It'll work on any size bag, so if you want to just get one more cost-effective solution, this would be the way to go. I think this was like $10 or $12 from one of the big department stores. So you also need your oxygen absorbers, and if you buy these, your bags from a reputable place, then generally they come with a little book which gives you a little guidance as to how much oxygen absorber to use for what different types of food and for the size of bag that you're using. So in this case, there's nothing really spelled out in here for pepper flakes or spices. So what I did is I consulted this, and for a 1 quart bag for pinto beans, red beans, and rice, it calls for 100 cc. Flour, flax meal, instant mixes, powders, coffee, beans, 100 cc. And then for pasta, cereal, instant potatoes, oatmeal, barley, dried corn, it calls for 150 cc oxygen absorber. So it's always a safe bet to go over, to overestimate. So the highest would be 150. If it's not on there, I'm gonna go with a 200. And the oxygen absorbers come in different sizes. These happen to be 300s, there's 500s, there's 1000s. These are 200s. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these and I'm going to put it in the bag with my pepper flakes. So let's go ahead and pour it in real quick. This particular bag happens to be a top loading bag. There's some that load from the bottom. It does have a Ziploc in it. So what we do is we pour our spices in, or whatever you're going to be storing. I always make it as dense as possible. I shake it to make it all settle. And then if you can see in there, there's probably a good 2 inches before the Ziploc portion of the bag. Now that's ready. I store the oxygen absorbers, once you take them out of this vacuum seal pack, it's very tight, it's like a brick, right? They vacuum seal these so that they don't absorb any oxygen. So what I do is after I open that bag, if you leave them out, they go bad because they absorb all the oxygen in the air. So you want to store them in a nice tight container. Either vacuum seal them again if you have a vacuum sealer, or I prefer to put them in a canning jar, and you'll probably be able to hear it pop. Once you store them in here, create suction, so you have to pop the top on it. And then take 1 or 2 of these and you throw them right in on top. Very simple. Now what I do is I push as much of the air out as I can, because you got to remember the air around us, like I said, is 78% nitrogen and only 21% oxygen. So, but the more you can get, more air you can get out of it in general, the better off you are. So then you take the iron that I've already heated up and you go along the top, right? You just basically crimp it down, hold it down. I actually move it like this to eliminate any wrinkles or air pockets or air bubbles in it. You just move it along the top, right above the Ziploc portion of it. I move it back. You know, you'll tell, you don't want it to start sticking to the plastic, because then you're losing some of the integrity of the plastic. But you want to heat it up enough and pinch it together, pinch it down, squeeze it down enough to where the 2 layers of plastic on either side actually bond through the heat. And that's basically all there is to it. This has a really nice seal on it. It's really hot after you get done doing it, so be careful you don't burn yourself. Then I'll take a Sharpie and I'll write on it the date, what I have in it. Now this is all sealed up and ready to go. The oxygen will be absorbed out of here. Once you store it away, you leave it out for a couple days, or you store it away, and you can get 2 results. There's a lot of debate about this online. Sometimes, hopefully you can see this package is very dimpled. I do have some packages of rice and that type of thing that are still in this condition from 2015. I just opened up the other day. So they'll be really tight, it'll be like a brick. It may also not do that because inside is just an oxygen absorber, and like I said, that's only 21% of the air, quote unquote, that's inside the bag. So as long as the oxygen is absorbed and the absorber does its job, you'll be fine. It doesn't have to be sucked in. It can be loose. You can see this one is, it isn't sucked in and hard like a brick like this one, but if the oxygen absorber did its job, then we'll be fine. Now there is a caveat to that. Sometimes the bags may be defective. You expect defective runs on products sometimes. So you expect a little bit of a failure rate. You may go to open this in 10 years and it may be half eaten up by worms, or might be some pests in there where the bag actually leaked. But either way is generally fine. Very tight and sucked in, or somewhat loose. As long as these, like I said, as long as the oxygen is absorbed inside, then you're fine. You got to have some faith in your equipment and your methodology. So I think it's important to mention that you may not get 20 to 30 years out of all the food that you store in these, but it should extend the shelf life significantly of whatever you store. So that's it for today's video. I know this has been covered maybe thousands of times on the internet and on YouTube, but I was getting some inquiries as to how I did it, and I know a lot of my viewers are more technically oriented, so they may not go to food prep sites and that type of thing, so I figured I'd get this out there just in case you haven't been down that road before. So hopefully you learned something. If you liked the video, please like it. Please subscribe so you know when I have new videos coming out, and most importantly, if you know somebody who could use this information, then please share my video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.